Today on the news and why it matters, Michael Bloomberg officially enters the race, but does anybody care? Also, impeachment. It turns out people may not all be too gung-ho about that whole impeachment thing. Got a lot coming up, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Monday. I am Sarah Gonzalez. Today joined by Stubergear and Pat Gray, both of whom are, I know, very excited to join us. They've not done any radio at all today.
Hardly any. A little.
Yeah, just a little bit. So very, very excited to be with us. And also Eric July, who I hope actually is happier to be with us.
Yeah, of course. I always enjoy myself.
By the way, Stu and I have made a pact not to acknowledge the NFL today.
Yeah, I've been boycotting it for a long time.
Have you?
I swear.
We got a lot to get into, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Quip. So Quip makes a really awesome electric toothbrush, and they want you to know the one single discovery that matters most for your dental care. It is this, all right? If you have good habits, you're good. That's it. That's all it takes. That means you brush for 2 minutes twice a day, you floss regularly, no matter what brand you use. But Quip makes that super simple with an electric toothbrush. They have refillable floss and anti-cavity toothpaste. Refillable floss, that's awesome. Because you know you're getting the floss and then you get to the end of it and you're like, well, crap. That's not enough to do anything. Quip's electric brush has sensitive sonic vibrations with a built-in timer and 30-second pulses to guide a full and even clean that is still gentle on sensitive gums. The floss dispenser comes with pre-marked string so that you know how much you're using. It helps you use just enough. Now, 75% of us were using old toothbrushes that are worn out and they're not effective, but Quip will deliver fresh ones right to your door every 3 months with free shipping, so you don't have to remember that. It's like changing your air filter and stuff. You don't remember when you're supposed to do it, and then you end up breathing in a bunch of gross air. Same thing with your toothbrush, but Quip will remember for you. Join over 3 million healthy mouths and get Quip today, starting at $25. You got to go to getquip.com/itmatters. Right now, you will get a first refill free. That is a first refill free at getquip.com/itmatters. That is getquip.com/itmatters. All right, Michael Bloomberg. Woo! Yay! Yeah. Officially enters the... No? Oh.
Not an overwhelming response, I would say.
Officially enters the presidential race. What was interesting to me, though, is at the same time that happens, Bloomberg News makes a very, very brave and heroic pledge not to investigate Michael Bloomberg or any of the Democratic presidential candidates. Interesting take. They said, we will continue our tradition. So weird. We will continue our tradition of not investigating Mike and his family and his foundation, and we will extend the same policy to his rivals in the Democratic primaries, says the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg. If any other credible journalistic institutions publish investigative work on Mike or other Democratic candidates, we will either publish those articles in full or summarize them for our readers. And we won't hide them, but we're not going to be doing any investigating, any digging up dirt on presidential candidates. Why would anyone want to do that to a presidential candidate? Oh, I mean, well, only if you're a Democrat, because if you're a Republican, it's totally fine. Stu, your thoughts?
It's an interesting line. It is weird that, he's got a giant news organization named after him.
Seems kind of like a conflict of interest.
It will be really weird when they have to report on him if he were to actually do very well in this primary. Of course, he won't, because he is trying to pitch some sort of weird, centrism, but with like a kind of a jerk at the helm of it. Like it's like he's like kind of a jerk and kind of an insulting guy, and not one that people like. So it's weird. It's a weird combo. It's not one that I would say is like, it's not like a textbook winning combination. No. But he does have $50 billion. He's the 9th richest man on the planet.
Which seems like a good reason to not be able to win in the Democratic Party right now.
Right. I mean, Steyer, I think, is finding that out at some level as well. It's not a popular thing to be. There used to be a time where achievement was praised in this country, and now it's not, right? It's the exact opposite. It's a terrible detriment to his campaign to have had personal financial success, which is a bizarre thing to say, but it's true. So like his platform doesn't really align with the Democratic platform. He has a lot of money, but that's not necessarily positive. He's yet another old, as they will see him as another old white guy running for president. So all of these things combined to, you would say there's basically no chance of him winning here. One thing I think is interesting is you think the Democratic Party for many, many years now has basically made it out to be that all elections are bought by rich, powerful interests, right? Like Citizens United, they've said that we can't do these things, it's terrible. This should really finally, for once, put a nail in that coffin. Like he bought more ads in 1 week than any presidential candidate has ever spent in any week, including the general election in his first week. And he's going to wind up at 4% in the polls.
Yeah.
You know, and he's not going to win if he's lucky.
Yeah.
So the idea that you can buy an election, I think, hopefully that will finally be shut down, because if Steyer and Bloomberg can't even make a dent in this field with $52 billion between them, I mean, isn't that point dead? I mean, Donald Trump was outspent like crazy in the last election and won. It's about your message. It's about how you communicate it. And Michael Bloomberg doesn't have either one of those abilities. He doesn't have a good message, and he doesn't know how to communicate it. So he's in big trouble.
Pat, do you agree?
Yeah, I'm excited to see they're not going to investigate him. I think the Blaze has made the same announcement on Glenn Beck. We're not going to investigate Glenn Beck
that's nice of us.
this year. So I think that's really positive.
I like that they called it a tradition.
Yeah, it's just we have that same tradition here at the Blaze. It's kind of weird.
It's like Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Not investigating.
Microsoft has pledged not to investigate Bill Gates.
Wow.
Whoa, that's powerful. That's really, really powerful. This is a guy who's kind of anti-freedom. He tried to ban salt in New York. He did ban large glasses of soda that you couldn't get your hands on in New York. He screwed up the traffic flow in that city. I'm not sure what he really did. He claims in his initial video that he rebuilt New York after 9/11. When really we were there during much of that time when he was mayor, and to me, he did nothing but screw up New York. He's a nightmare, and he's coming after your guns if he wins. So I think even voting Democrats understand this can't be the guy and won't be the guy.
Yeah. Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be the guy for sure. I think he fits too much in that box of rich white guy, bad. That's what they see them as. However, it just really depends. I'm not willing to go that far to say that Democrats will completely shun someone that is rich and white, because Bernie Sanders is still in the race and he's doing well, and he's also rich and white. I think it more so goes on the fact that and they really do love rich people that for whatever reason seem to adopt this deal where they demonize
it's like
wealth,
they're woke, right? They're woke rich
and they try to, it seems almost like a diversion tactic. Like if I can prove how woke I am, then they'll stay away from my money. So I'm like, yeah, of course, yes, tax me this amount of dollars and so forth, and they adopt these sort of almost socialistic policies. So I think if he stands a chance, that's the approach that he has to get. He's like, yeah, look at me, I'm a rich person, so I'm going to adopt all of the policies that these guys adopt, and they'll find that attractive. Because look, see, even the rich guys, they're saying that there's something wrong with our economic system or what have you. So I think that's the only way that he has a chance. But just being a billionaire and white is certainly not enough in a Democratic Party. It's not enough. It's not going to get you very far just by existing. You have to sort of demonize wealth. I think that's the only way that he stands a chance.
It is interesting to see the Democrat field just knowing what they talk about and what they say is unacceptable, because as you brought up, you've got Bernie Sanders, you've got Joe Biden. They're both rich, white, old men, which the Democrats say that they don't want a part of. They also are the ones, largely behind the Me Too movement, which Bloomberg has had some pretty iffy situations on his past when it comes to, quote, Me Too violations.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It will be interesting to see if he gets called on that as well. I mean, my assumption is no. But I heard you guys going over some of them on radio.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Me Too thing is so broad at this point. Like, it was everything.
Someone catcalled me once.
There you go. Someone catcalled me once, all the way to, like, you know, a serial killer that only targets women, right? Like, it's like all of those are in the Me Too movement somehow. He's much more on the side of the catcalling. I mean, he has not murdered that I know of.
It's a pretty
anyone?
Pretty.
It's not a Clinton.
Offensive. It's a pretty offensive things.
Very offensive things, degrading to women, whether they should be in the workplace or not, how their physical assets give him enjoyment.
Whether or not they should be wearing high heels.
Yes,
right?
And like some of it is like that type of stuff. Some of it's just sexual, like him complimenting women on their features. Others is, a lot of the stuff is like that type of stuff.
That's
like, you know,
bad.
Should you be in the boardroom without your hair colored? You know, like that type of stuff. It's not good. He'll apologize for it, and he won't get the treatment that a Republican would get for the same comments, obviously. So he'll have that going for him. Though I don't know that they necessarily like this. The Bloomberg thing, who really likes this are local media sources in the Super Tuesday states who will get a giant influx of money for their commercials, which they like. The other candidates don't like it because he can outspend them on all of this, so he can push their message back. And they don't want that, obviously. So I don't think there's going to be a warm reception for Michael Bloomberg in this race. They have not given a warm reception to Tom Steyer, who has a little bit less than $2 billion only. He's just one of those barely a billionaire. Pathetic.
What a lazy SOB, man.
But I mean, he's tried to spend a fortune on these ads, and it's gotten him into these debates. Like, he's hitting these debate thresholds, which is a big situation, but has not really made a dent. And he's outperformed people like Klobuchar, people like Booker, people at that realm, at sort of the bottom, Castro, all of these guys. But those guys get on TV all the time. They don't put Steyer on TV because there's something about it they feel is morally offensive, that this person would come in and be like, he's rich and he's running ads and that's wrong. Bloomberg's that guy times 25, right? Like, he's got a lot more money, is very willing to spend it, and it's going to hurt their campaigns as far as jacking up the rates and buying up all the media before they can get their hands on it. So I don't think he's going to get a warm reception. They didn't like him before. No one really likes Michael Bloomberg.
Right.
That's the thing here. Really, nobody does.
He's got to know that, right? So it's weird to me, why now? But you don't think that he's gunning for a VP spot?
I mean, the VP spot is something is interesting that we've talked about, in that he could spend his money for another candidate. But who's he running with? You can't run two old white people together. So it kind of takes Biden out of the.
You can't, but they don't abide by their own standards.
No,
so
that's true.
I guess you
that's
could.
True. Maybe they could. I mean, I was thinking, like, if a Kamala Harris were to, let's say, win, right? So you take a Kamala Harris, put her on the top of the ticket. She's not going to win. You could see almost like either a Steyer, I don't know about a Bloomberg with Harris, but a Steyer type where you'd have someone who could fund this campaign. And the argument being like, look, he's very much aligned with my values, but also we need someone who can match the resources of Donald Trump, who's evil. Right? Like, you can see that case being made. But I really think a lot of this with Bloomberg is, I don't think he would take a second seat to someone else. I don't think so. But B, a lot of this is about that little tiny club of 607 people, 607 billionaires. They all compete with each other. And up until 2016, really election night 2016, they all viewed Donald Trump as, like, is he even allowed in here? Like, that guy, the guy who's on TV yelling at people, the guy with all the gold everywhere, he puts his name on everything, that guy, Michael Bloomberg making that argument. But, like, they saw him as a lesser, right? Yeah. Like, Donald Trump was like a pathetic billionaire. He was this guy that didn't really belong in their club, but somehow squeaked in because of the stupid public. Bloomberg, of course, rose up. He achieved this big thing for high financial minds. He's built this giant empire. He's a real billionaire. And none of them can make that argument anymore because Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And the only way to overturn this, to right this wrong in the billionaire club, is for somebody like Michael Bloomberg to become president of the United States. I think he sees that as just a huge ego play. He, of course, believes he can run the country better than everybody else. And he's willing to throw his resources up there. It will be a fascinating experiment, and I think we'll finally disprove this idea that you could buy elections.
Pat, what do you think?
I think it's amazing, too, that this party that hates billionaires, and nobody needs to be a billionaire, and there shouldn't be any billionaires. 1/8 of their candidates are billionaires. It's pretty amazing. The hypocrisy is just so out of control on the left.
Eric,
No, I mean, that's what they do. That's exactly what they do.
They do hypocrisy.
They only demonize it if they're on the opposite side, or if there's a rich person that may not adopt, let's say, their policy or may adopt their ideology. That's when they have an issue. But they absolutely love, at least in my honest opinion, and certainly when it comes to being a donor, they love rich people that agree with them and will demonize themselves, which I think is just weird to me, but I see it all the time. I see it with Bill Gates. I see it with a lot of rich people where it's like, oh yeah, just tax me to the oblivion. Of course, they don't really believe that. They'll have their lawyers working on that, finding whatever loophole that they can come up with, but it sounds good for the TV. And then you get these people that always point to those. When I have these arguments with these individuals, these leftists that are like, hey, we need to raise taxes and so forth, they always point to, look, the person with all the money is also saying this. So look, now it's validated. So they're going to be hypocrites. What they do best.
Yeah. Well, we here at Blaze TV will continue our tradition of not voting for Michael Bloomberg. Back in a minute.
Third or fourth richest out of those candidates too is Elizabeth Warren.
Yes, I know. No one talks about that. Before we get back into the conversation, we want to thank our sponsor, Overcomer. Overcomer is the #1 inspirational movie in America, and it is now available for digital download today. It is available on Blu-ray and DVD December 17th. Now, this is a film from the Kendricks brothers, one of, if not the most beloved storytellers in the faith space. They were behind the movie Courageous, War Room, both huge hits. Now, Overcomer tells the story of Coach John Harrison when his high school basketball team's state championship dreams are crushed under the weight of unexpected news. And then the largest manufacturing plant in town suddenly shuts down and hundreds of families begin moving away. Now, John must come to grips with challenges facing his family and his team. Urged by the school's principal to fill in and coach a sport he doesn't know or like, John is frustrated and questions his worth until he crosses paths with a student struggling with her own journey. It really is. I know people think about faith movies and they're like, oh, that's boring. That's not Overcomer, all right? Overcomer is filled with a powerful mix of faith, a twist of humor, a ton of heart. It's a really, really inspiring family film starring Alex Kendrick, notable Christian speaker Priscilla Shirer, Sherry Rigby, Cameron Arnett, so many more. You got to go to Overcomer, I can't speak today, overcomermovie.com. That is overcomermovie.com. Download it, pre-order your copy on Blu-ray or DVD. That is overcomermovie.com. All right. So if I just speak like
it's on
this.
The screen. Just read it. I mean, I don't understand what the problem is.
I just speak like this, the rest of the show, maybe I can get my words out. So you're welcome, everyone.
Less work for us to do, too.
It's true. I just fill more time if I just speak slowly. So latest poll on impeachment, which I know we're supposed to have an impeachment-free week this week. But I'm sorry.
You're ruining it.
I am. That's what I do here. I just ruin things. Independent voters seem to be flipping on impeachment now. The majority of them are vastly opposed after the first 2 weeks of these public hearings. I'm shocked to hear. Who would have thought that all of this dog and pony show yielding nothing would actually be, troubling to the American people. So independents, let's see, 62% of surveyed independents claimed the issue is more important to politicians than it is to me, while 61% answered the same way when asked about the media. And only 22% and 23% answered the respective questions in the negative. So, I mean, not shocking at all if you actually watched the public hearings and didn't listen to the snippets that CNN gave you, talking about the bombshell revelations and all of that. Really not shocking to me that independents would be like, yeah, you guys don't have anything here, and we kind of don't like it when you character assassinate someone based on nothing.
It'll be interesting to see, because that's the way that question's phrased. Like, is it more important for the media or more important for politicians? I think is the way it was phrased, which tells you something, I think, pretty real about the way the American people feel about this, which is, look, they want justice, right? They want the truth to come out, but you can tell that this is being blown into a media circus for ratings, and that's different. I'm really interested to see how they feel about whether it should happen or not.
Well, let me tell you this: when they were asked to rank, there were 11 different issues that they were asked to rank as top priorities, and impeachment came last.
Yeah,
among independents. So they ranked the deficit, healthcare, infrastructure spending, all these things, and then impeachment was dead last in their rank of priorities. So you got to believe they're like
behind expanding the college football playoff to 8. That was above it. I think
it should be above it.
I agree. I'm totally with that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think people actually watched it, right? So I don't know that they are going to change. I'd be surprised if there was any real opinion change as to whether it should occur or not. The fact that it is more of a priority for media and politicians, I think, is completely obvious. The average person has an interest that's sort of on the side, right? It's not part of all those other things are much more important to the average person. They see this as an obviously partisan political battle that they have some interest in seeing how it plays out. But I don't think anyone looks at this and saying, oh, this is a way to find out what the truth about what's really happening in our government or the way we handle issues. And I got to say, probably, I don't even think you get to 67% of people who would even know Ukraine was a country as of 2 weeks ago. Right, so the idea that they understand the nuances between these two sides, they don't.
Yeah.
It's just at this point something that is firing up hardcore news fans, people who watch cable news, and people who are either defenders or detractors of the president. Those people are passionate about it, but outside of that, it really is a media event.
Pat Stu here is very cynical, and
how dare you?
You're very cynical.
I'm very cynical about
I'm trying to think maybe American people are waking up to the nonsense. What do you think? No.
I hope so.
I should have known who I'm talking to. Both of you are cynical.
No, I mean, I'd love to think that that's the case. I don't know at this point. It's hard to gauge the American people.
But we saw what the reaction was with, let's say, Brett Kavanaugh. Right. Yeah. I mean, we saw people were finally people were finally like, okay, guys, you can't do this based on nothing with no evidence. You can't just ruin a man's career, reputation, what have you.
Well,
Eric?
It's hard because the American people are getting their news from the mainstream media.
Yeah.
And that's who is saying that this is an ironclad open and shut case against the president. They've got all this plethora of evidence when they really don't.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they see through that.
Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that that's the case. I mean, that they're waking up and smelling the coffee, if you will. But with me, I just wish that, and when I watch stuff like this play out, with happening with the Kavanaugh thing, is a good point that you brought up. When people are seeing this for what it is, and it's a clown show. It's really what it is. And I just personally wish people would extend that to, I would say, the election altogether, the general election, or maybe just politics in general. And that's what it is. That's the reality of what it is. Certainly with the rise of social media, we've talked about it on the show many times. And I think that's just all that it is. It's a big show. And sometimes because that's the case and people have their own interests, it's very difficult to even figure out what's true because everybody is presenting something with some sort of motive, if you will, no matter what side of the issue that they're on. So I've always seen politics in general as this big clown show when it comes to the general election. It's like this beauty pageant, if you will. It's not really authentic. I hope people that aren't watching that are into that, and I don't want them thinking that people that are in a beauty pageant. I don't think they work hard for whatever it is that they try to do. That's not necessarily
what I heard you say was very sexist.
It's not necessarily the case, but it's just that it's a show. It's a show, and it's not really. This is why things are always put on the back burner, which is why you get people that are in office that are the way they are. This is why you get these deficits. This is why the federal government is in $22 trillion plus worth of debt, and it's like nothing happens, right? They are passing off assets of the unborn. They're selling them off actively, and it's like, well, whatever. You know what I mean? And we're talking about porn stars and the president and stuff like that, things that aren't even important because it is all a show and everybody has their own motive. So personally, I wish, and I try to be optimistic about that. I want people to see it for what it is, and it is a show. I just wish they extend it to other things that are regarding the federal government for sure.
That's just cynics over here at the table. Back in a minute. Hey, in case you have not heard, our good friend Chad Prather of The Chad Prather Show is doing a really huge Jeffrey Epstein expose. It starts tonight. It is a 3-part special, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Jeffrey Epstein expose. It is, I was in for one of the specials, and I was floored at what I saw. You can go to BlazeTV.com. You can also find his show on YouTube, but you definitely are going to want to check it out. Also, 9 Line Apparel, Chad Prather merch. Epstein didn't kill himself.